Hi all. Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Good morning, everybody. My goodness, we have Charles, Camilla, Catherine, William, Anne, Fergie, Eugenie, Beatrice. We are busy. And of course, the other two. So let's just jump in. Oh, Duke of Kent. Let's just get in there, shall we? Let's go. All right, as usual, we're going to start off with Anne. You guys may not know this, but while she was in New Zealand, she visited the Havana Coffee Works, and she created her own blend of coffee. All the profits from this blend are going to go towards supporting the victims of Cyclone Gabrielle through the Red Cross. I love it. All right, next up, visiting London, the German embassy in London had Prime Minister Kretschmer, hope I'm saying that right, visiting and spoke at the King's College of London about strengthening their joint research projects. And they celebrated 30 years of the Dresden Trust with the Duke of Kent. Very nice. All right, now we're going to move on to Sarah Ferguson. She apparently bought a £4.25 million home in London last summer. But it looks like her children, who married very wealthy, especially Eugenie, might have helped pay for the home because there's no mortgage, according to the land registry documents. Now, there's a restriction, according to the paperwork, that says that, according to the deeds, Fergie can't sell the home without consent signed by the two daughters. So that means that whoever purchased the property wants to make sure that the daughters benefit from it. So I think what's going on is, like I said before, the children married very well. I think Fergie doesn't have any money. Andrew is having issues with his home. We know that his money's being cut. I mean, could it be that Andrew cannot afford the house? The house needs massive repairs. The taxpayers' money isn't going to go for those repairs. We really don't know how much actual cash the Queen left him and Philip left him. You know, all these properties that they live in don't belong to them. So, you know, like Buckingham Palace doesn't belong to the royal family. They live in it, but it doesn't belong to them. So it makes you wonder if possibly the daughters could have stepped up and bought that property so that the two of them have somewhere to live. In the meantime, stories like this one make me very happy because it lets me know that the corgis are still being taken care of and they're taking them out for walks. And, you know, they agreed to take good care of the dogs. Everybody looks happy here. So, you know, I guess they're not that worried. All right, moving on. Moving on, we have Camilla, who wants to salute the nation's unsung heroes by nominating them for a Coronation Champion Award. It's honor volunteers. 500 thereabout volunteers will be selected as the UK's official coronation champions, and they will get a pin and a certificate and an invite to the coronation celebrations. Now, they have several categories of volunteers, and these are supporting older people, young people, crisis and welfare, community, sports, culture and heritage, health, sustainability, and animal welfare. So what that says is, number one, identify a volunteer. They have to be aged 14 or older, and then you can nominate them. Number two, ask permission first. Some people may not want to be nominated, and people that are 16 or younger, you have to get the parents' and guardians' permission. Number three, go online to nominate. Now, when you get online, there's also a video by one of the award judges giving tips on how to make your nomination stand out. Now, volunteering has been identified as one of the major parts of the coronation celebration in tribute to the King's life of public service, as well as Camilla's work with literacy and campaigning against domestic violence. You know, one of the interesting things it says is, and I'm quoting, "I know from experience volunteers don't do what they do for praise or glory, but I know that they absolutely deserve it." Well, some people do. All right, moving on. All right, let's move on to Charles now. Apparently, the UK is giving 5 weeks of military training to Ukrainian recruits. And so Charles went to watch the training in southwest England with British and international partner forces. He watched a short defensive training exercise, and then he met some of the recruits. I have to say, and this may sound really simple and whatever, but I really applaud the UK for standing up with Ukraine along with the United States. You know, Russia's just invading and taking. And I'm glad that other countries have not bowed down to the fear that Putin has tried to, tell everybody, if you do that, we're going to do this to you. You know what I mean? They've stood up. Good for them. Now, while Charles was there, he was treated to the traditional Maori greeting called the hangi, I hope I'm saying that right, from a New Zealander who is there as part of the Ukrainian contingent training at the site. All right, moving on. I told you guys yesterday that I could have swore I saw Catherine patting somebody's tush as they were walking down the line at the BAFTAs. And yes, it's true. It came out in the news. I did not missee what I thought I saw. I think that's absolutely adorable because they don't really do PDA. It's fabulous. All right, let's move on. All right, moving on. Harry and Meghan are apparently quite angry. I told you before that they were removed from the Commonwealth website, and now apparently they're upset about it. I don't understand why they would be upset. They didn't do a good job representing the Commonwealth. Meghan told everybody in the Commonwealth that they were racist. Truth is, they should have been wiped off that website a year ago, probably longer than that. All right, moving on. All right, we're going to move on now to Harry's legal fight with the Home Office. We know that he's suing because he insists that when his family is in the UK, they need armed security. Now, we know that in the legal fight, he already lost. Then he asked for a high court judicial review 18 months ago. We found out later on that he offered to pay for police protection. And the UK police said, we are not, guns for hire. We know that in some of the court proceedings, he's already been admonished by the judge for releasing information into the public realm. He was told that, that's not the way it works and you can't do that, although he did try. One of the former commanders at Scotland Yard, his name is John O'Connor, he said, and I'm quoting, "To expect protection provided by the state is arrogant and irrational, and it's vanity. He only wants protection because he thinks his importance is downgraded without it." Dang. Well, Talk TV had something to say about that. This is also one of my favorites. Listen to this.
Front page 13, I should say, of The Sun, because you might remember when he was here back in the summer of last year, he decided that he was going to apply for a judicial review in the High Court because his armed security was basically withdrawn. It was basically withdrawn because he basically withdrew from the royal family. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan decided it was a good idea for them to take a step back from their royal duties. They wanted to have their cake and eat it. They were told you can't do that. So they went off to Montecito in California via Vancouver and Vancouver Island, and they ended up living in the United States of America. Now, Harry, who is no longer a working royal, therefore loses his right to protection from the police. He thought that was wrong. He said that was a mistake. He said that he should still qualify for it on the grounds that he will forever be a prince, and then he will forever be perhaps a target of people who would like to do him wrong. Nobody wants to see any harm coming to Prince Harry. That would be wrong. However, the book that he wrote, in which he admitted to killing the Taliban, members of the Taliban, 25 I think he said the number was, has put him in even more danger than perhaps he was in before. Now, he has brought that on himself. He has caused that for himself. But what is really irritating, and I think for many people will be beyond the pale, is that because of his legal case, because of his need for making a point, and that's all it is really, because he's never going to get the police protection that he wants because he doesn't qualify for it anymore. It's cost taxpayers, that's you and me, £300,000. Apparently it includes £199,978 on legal department costs, £93,268 on general counsel and £660 for legal fees. I mean, for heaven's sake, what is he thinking? I mean, as if he's not unpopular enough in this country, he's now actually costing taxpayers even more money by not being here. Unbelievable. So I think the message to Prince Harry is this: fold up your tent and disappear, please. You've got enough money. Why don't you pay the £300,000 back to the country's taxpayers? Just write a cheque now. You made plenty of profit, did you not, on your Netflix deal, on your book Spare? Send us the money and we might forgive you. And we might not boo you if you turn up at the coronation.
Now, for those who were wondering, I do remember the government saying that if Harry loses, they're going to sue him for repayment of all the money that they spent while they were fighting him. So don't fret. He's probably going to have to pay every penny of that back to you guys. You know, in the end, it's interesting because they would get armed protection when attending official events and staying on royal premises anyway. Maybe he should have thought about that a little harder before he wrote what he wrote in the Spare. And in the meantime, the case will not probably be settled before the king's coronation. Yeah. Now, in the meantime, with all of this going on, apparently Charles and his inner circle are concerned that Harry is drinking too much again. Now, let's be honest, he's been drinking and using drugs for 25 years. Maybe they felt that he had it under control and lately not. I mean, he did sit on the Stephen Colbert show knocking back tequila shots like it was water. And, you know, we know that he admitted to drinking heavily and taking drugs as an adult. So you never know with him. And then I saw this on Twitter saying that the Meghan's PR outlet, one of the ones she uses, is the one feeding the stories. So maybe she's getting ready to set Harry up for the big fall. Never know. All right, next up, they're saying that Harry and Meghan are woke dictators because they're thinking about possibly filing some sort of a lawsuit against the people who did South Park. They don't have a case. They'd be crazy to even do it. But it's just the fact that now South Park is talking about doing a regular show on them. Like, I'm not kidding. You know, talking about lawsuits, there's been a lot of people on South Park. They've all threatened to sue. Nobody's been successful. Nobody. You have Tom Cruise. You have Kanye West. You have Randy Marsh, who, by the way, strangles Winnie the Pooh, if you can imagine that one. You have Donald Trump. You have Hillary Clinton. You have Britney Spears. You have Ben Affleck. And you have J-Lo as this thing on the guy's hand. I won't even go into what the hand did. It's disgusting. You had Bill Gates. You have the Pope. None of these people are off limits, guys. None of them. Even Tom Brady. So if they couldn't get themselves out of it, neither can Harry and Meghan. Now, for those of you who watched it, you have to know there were 8 savage moments that were just brutal to Harry and Meghan. And the whole thing. 1 was the Queen's body in the open casket. 2 was Sir Smelly John performing Goodbye, Queefy Queen. Number 3 was Harry and Meghan being farted on by the Earl of Halifax. Number 4 was the Worldwide Privacy Tour. Number 5 is when the host of Good Morning America called Meghan the Princess Instagram-loving you-know-what wife. Number 6 was when Kyle is accused by Meghan of victimizing her because she's ethnic. And the prince is surprised by that information. Number 7 was when the prince tried to goad Kyle into responding by doing something against the window and he gets ignored. And finally, number 8 is when the prince looks to his wife for support. She says nothing, so he flips open her head and shouts in and gets an echo showing that she's nothing but an empty vessel. Now, you guys know how much I love Sky News, and they had some comments on this. Listen to this.
Prince Harry and wife Meghan Markle, they've just learned the hardest of lessons, which is, if you start a brawl, do not be surprised if you end up getting punched twice as hard. In fact, South Park has just knocked them out. Harry last year wrote a book called Spare, which smashed his brother, his father, his mother-in-law, his sister-in-law, the media, and many, many others in one giant whinge. Now, I don't know what he and his wife expected from this. Was it pity, sympathy at their hard life? or just the millions of dollars they've earned from betraying Harry's family. But they couldn't have imagined being made a laughingstock by the cult cartoon South Park. The whole thing was devastating, very funny, and it made Harry and Meghan a laughingstock around the world. And not just in the English-speaking parts of it, the Spanish one as well, and in France, and in Germany, and in Holland, in fact, just about everywhere. It has been devastating.
So if South Park does what they said they're going to do, and if they continue on constantly bashing these two, yeah, I don't know what's going to come of that. All right, I had to go back to this. I showed you this yesterday, the blind item. The illiterate one had lunch with the person who decides the replacement for a certain high-profile position. Well, come to find out, I know what that is now. Gordon Getty, the billionaire that she's been having lunch with, is apparently friends with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who, and Dianne Feinstein just retired, and Newsom has to name a predecessor, and Meghan wants it to be her. So here's a woman who's never even been on the PTA who wants to hop, skip, and jump over everybody. Amazing. And finally, for those of you who have followed me for a while, you know that I follow C.J. Hawkins. Her blogs are amazing. And she points out the things that are real from the South Park. You have the constant talk about how they want privacy, although now they're saying they never said that. You have her claiming that she's an ethnic woman, which people are surprised about. You have their outfits, which are off the real outfits. You have the whole victim mentality. That's all they've been for years now, is cry victim. The empty shell, because most of us believe Meghan really is an empty shell. The way they storm out at the end, well, they've both been storming for quite some time. Blaming the press for everything. How often have we heard that one? Running to Canada, which, by the way, they did. And yeah, the frostbite and the book and the wife's magazine covers and copycatting Catherine. I sincerely hope that you sign up for her blog because it really is amazing. She's been doing writing like this for years and it's always spot on. And I gotta be honest, their takedown has been spectacular. So they've upset the UK, now they'd upset the United States. Can't imagine where they would go next. And finally, I want to end with this story. I couldn't believe it. This is an Australian radio host, and he went to a tea. It was a formal event being hosted by Meghan Markle when she was still a senior member of the royal family. So apparently he was invited to a morning tea for youth leaders hosted by Meghan, but he got bored when she didn't show up. We're talking like hours and hours. So he decided to make a quiet exit, but he claims he was told by security that if he left, he would be arrested. I mean, I can't imagine. Now, I know he's a comedian, but somehow I don't think this is a joke. And in the end, he said, you know, it's easier to leave the royal family than to leave a royal event. My God, can you imagine? All right, you guys, you know what I want. Leave those comments below and make them good. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of my uploads. If you've already hit the button, double check and make sure that you are still subscribed. Don't forget to go up into the description box and there you'll find links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email, my Patreon. For those of you who have donated money through my coffee fund and through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.